Hello and welcome, everybody, to another episode of Last Week in Quantum. I'm your host, self proclaimed Silicon Valley marketing genius, Bill Roth. This is the show where we review the week's news in the world of quantum computing and its impacts on the world of cybersecurity, AI, and more. To discuss it with us this week is, of course, Brandon Dennis, Director of Operations, and Eugenia Wilson, Product Manager, calling from an undisclosed location in Hawaii. Welcome to you both.
It's Halloween, Bill. Let's do it.
It is. Aloha indeed. Welcome to the special Halloween edition where we talk about lots of scary post-quantum computing stories. So, lots of articles this week around quantum advancement. I think this is the first week in a long time we haven't had a new number of qubits articles. I think for our listeners, it's important to understand the benefits and limitations of what's going on. There's going to be a ton of hype around quantum. And what we want to do is strip away the useless stuff and focus on the reality of what's current, so that people have a foundation for understanding kind of progress and development. So in that vein, last week, one of the articles came up was from down in Australia. The Queensland researchers have come up with a bit of not a qubit advancement, but sort of computing infrastructure. Tell us about it, Brandon.
Yeah, out of abc.net.au, we have experts from the University of Queensland have made a breakthrough in quantum computing. They've managed to miniaturize a component that is key to getting parts of supercomputers to talk to each other. And Eugenia, I'm happy you're with us today to break that down into layman's terms for us, please.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here. So what they've done, this component, it's called a circulator. And what circulators are able to do is they make sure that the right signals get to the right place, so to their intended qubits. And they've been able to really shrink the size of a circulator from currently what is a matchbox down to smaller than a strand of hair. So over 1,000x smaller. And this is really important for quite a few reasons. So currently, when you look at quantum computers, they're about the size of a car, and that's really big. When you look at your home computer or something else, you're like, how on earth is that going to grow, or am I going to use that in my day-to-day life in the future? And a lot of the infrastructure there is really around the cooling as well. And so by creating these smaller bits, we're not only able to create a smaller footprint and have space efficiency, and as a result increase our scalability as we try and grow the size of these quantum computers. But we're also able to reduce the heat generated by these pieces, and as a result, that infrastructure that's needed to cool, we need less of that. So we're not only creating less heat by using these smaller technologies, but we also require less energy to be consumed to cool them. So a lot of cool stuff going on.
A lot of cool stuff. And in honor of that, I'm wearing my block equation t-shirt, the ideal state for a qubit. This is about as far as I go on Halloween. So great to hear that my friends in qubit land are getting some play. Hey folks, remember to subscribe to our channel to stay up to date with all things quantum. You can subscribe at the link below, or you can also sign up for our newsletter on LinkedIn. The next and final story is about post-quantum critical infrastructure. And I think critical infrastructure protection is obviously a big national security play. Tell us a little bit about what was in the news, Brandon.
Yeah, RAND.org reports that as part of its ongoing effort to support the security and resilience of critical infrastructure, the National Risk Management Center of Cybersecurity and Infrastructure tasked the Homeland Security Operational Analysis Center with assessing the quantum computing vulnerabilities affecting the national critical functions. Eugenia, we have to keep our power and our water and all of our critical infrastructure safe. I know you had a chance to read that article. Any thoughts?
Yeah, quite a few. This was a really interesting one because, I think, jumping to the end here almost, there were quite a few takeaways, but two that really stood out to me. There were 55 of these national critical functions that the Department of Homeland Security identified, right? That's quite a few. But the exciting part was really that, well, exciting for us in the quantum space, was that one, all of the national critical functions that they were able to identify, they clearly stated need to prepare for the PQC transition. There weren't any areas that, say, oh, the threat doesn't apply here. It applies to everything from how we generate and distribute our electricity to how we communicate with our national defenses, even to how we handle our waste management and our hazardous waste. It's really a part of it all. So that was one of the kind of the two key takeaways for me that were really interesting. The other being that, the Department of Homeland Security, they acknowledged that, while it's uncertain when we're going to get this cryptographically relevant quantum computer, it doesn't matter. Some risks, they need to be identified today before an event, because really, there might be little to no margin of, time, for when this is going to happen. So as a result, we can't delay the adoption to PQC. And what was in here that was interesting was not only, that, we need to do it now, but it's no longer an if we get a, cryptographically relevant quantum computer, it's a when. And we're seeing that language used all across this document. So that urgency is really coming through.
Oh, it sure is. And that always, that plays to the common saying, just because you're paranoid doesn't mean they're not out to get you. So thank you, Eugenia, for providing a lot of light today. You can find, everybody, the links to the articles mentioned today in the show notes. And if you want weekly quantum updates, join our mailing list by visiting our LinkedIn page. That's the LinkedIn page for QSecure, Q-U-S-E-C-U-R-E. That's all for today's show. I'm your host, Bill Roth, self-proclaimed humble marketing genius from Silicon Valley. And with us this week has been, as always, Brandon Dennis, Director of Operations, and newcomer, but really out of the gate strong, Eugenia Wilson, Product Manager. Thanks to you both, and we'll see you next week on Last Week in Quantum.